Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the massive viewport of the Imperial Command Station Prometheus, watching the endless dance of stars that had become as familiar to her as breathing. 23 years of service to the Terran Empire had taught her to read the cosmos like a book. Tonight something was wrong. The station hummed with its usual symphony of life support systems and quantum processors. But there was an edge to the sound, a tension that seemed to vibrate through the metal itself. Chen's reflection stared back at her from the reinforced transparasteel, her weathered face bearing the scars of a dozen battles that had secured humanity's place among the stars. Admiral. The voice belonged to Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb, her tactical officer. His usually steady tone carried an unfamiliar tremor. "We have a situation." Chen turned, her gray uniform crisp despite the late hour. Webb's dark skin had taken on an ashen quality, and his hands trembled slightly as he held a data pad. In all their years serving together, she had never seen him rattled. "Report," she commanded, crossing to the central command platform where holographic displays painted the bridge in blue light. "Long-range sensors picked up an anomaly 37 minutes ago," Webb began, his fingers dancing across the control interface. The main display flickered to life, showing a three-dimensional map of local space. "Initially dismissed as sensor drift, but the pattern is unusual." A red dot appeared on the display, pulsing at the edge of their scanning range. Chen frowned. "Define unusual, Commander." "The contact appears to be moving at approximately 15% of light speed," Webb said, pausing to let the implications sink in. "But here's the problem. There's no engine signature, no heat bloom, no subspace distortion, nothing that should indicate propulsion of any kind." Chief Engineer Yuki Tanaka looked up from her station, her short black hair falling across her eyes. "That's impossible. You can't move that fast without leaving some kind of trail. Even our most advanced stealth ships generate detectable signatures at those velocities." Chen studied the display, her mind racing through possibilities. In her decades of service, she had encountered Zentari raiders, rogue AI ships, and even the mysterious void walkers that haunted the Outer Rim. But this was different. "Origin point?" she asked. Webb's expression grew even more troubled. "That's just it, Admiral. We've been tracking backwards along its trajectory for the past 20 minutes. Based on its current heading and speed, it should have passed through at least 3 sensor networks in the past 6 hours. None of them detected anything." The bridge fell silent except for the steady beeping of monitoring equipment. Chen felt a familiar chill run down her spine, the same sensation she'd experienced before the Battle of Proxima, when an entire Zentari fleet had somehow appeared without warning. "Could it be some kind of new Zentari technology?" asked Dr. Elena Vasquez, the station's xenobiology specialist. Her accent carried traces of her childhood on Mars colony, and her dark eyes reflected years of studying alien artifacts. "Negative," Webb replied, manipulating the display to show comparative data. "Zentari ships, even their most advanced models, leave quantum wake signatures. This thing, it's like it's not really there." Chen approached the display, studying the anomaly's trajectory. The path was eerily straight, cutting through space with mathematical precision toward the heart of the Terran Empire. Time to Imperial core worlds? At current speed, approximately 18 hours to reach the outer colonies, 26 hours to Earth itself. The weight of those words settled over the bridge like a shroud. Earth, home to 12 billion souls, and the seat of human power in the galaxy. If this unknown contact represented a threat, Commander Webb, I want every sensor array in the sector focused on that contact. Full spectrum analysis. If it exists, I want to know what it's made of, where it came from, and what it wants. Already in progress, Admiral. But there's something else. Webb hesitated, then continued. The contact is accelerating. Chen's blood turned to ice. How much? It's gained another 2% of light speed in the past 10 minutes, and the acceleration curve is consistent. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, her face pale. Admiral, at this rate of acceleration, basic physics says the ship should be generating enough energy to power a small star. The gravitational effects alone should be detectable from here. Yet our gravitational sensors show nothing, Webb confirmed. Chen stared at the red dot on the display, watching it pulse with each sensor sweep. In all her years of military service, she had learned to trust her instincts above all else. Right now, every instinct she possessed was screaming danger. Send a priority alert to Fleet Command, she ordered. Classification, unknown contact, potential threat level maximum. I want every available ship in the sector placed on high alert. Admiral, Webb said softly, what if it's not hostile? What if we're looking at some kind of first contact scenario? Chen considered this. The Terran Empire had encountered dozens of alien species over the past century, from the warlike Zentari to the enigmatic crystal beings of the Andromeda Drift. Each contact had followed predictable patterns: radio signals, technological signatures, some form of recognizable intelligence. This was different. This felt like something that didn't belong in their universe at all. Dr. Vasquez, I want you to prepare a first contact protocol packet. Standard mathematical progressions, peaceful, intentions, the whole package, but... She paused, studying the display once more. Also prepare defensive measures. If this thing gets within weapons range of any Imperial world, I want options. The xenobiologist nodded grimly. Understood, Admiral. As the bridge crew began implementing her orders, Chen found herself drawn back to the viewport. Somewhere out, there in the vast darkness, something was approaching at impossible speeds, leaving no trace of its passage, something that defied every law of physics she understood. She touched the communication badge on her collar. Admiral Chen to Captain Rodriguez. Rodriguez here, came the immediate reply from the captain of their escort destroyer, the Valiant. Captain, I'm transmitting coordinates for an unknown contact. I want you to take the Valiant and intercept. Do not, I repeat, do not engage unless directly threatened. But I want eyes on this thing. Understood, Admiral. We'll launch in 10 minutes. Chen closed the channel and returned her attention to the tactical display. The red dot continued its inexorable advance toward the heart of human space, gaining speed with each passing moment. Time to intercept for the Valiant? She asked. Webb consulted his calculations. Approximately 4 hours, assuming they can match the contact's trajectory. But Admiral, he looked up from his station, his expression grim. At the rate this thing is accelerating, it's going to be moving at nearly 25% of light speed by the time they reach it. Even if Captain Rodriguez wanted to engage, his weapons wouldn't be fast enough to track it. Chen nodded. Slowly. She had suspected as much. Whatever was coming their way, it possessed technology far beyond anything in the Imperial arsenal. The question was whether humanity was about to make a powerful new ally, or face an enemy unlike anything they had ever encountered. Maintain course and speed, she ordered, and begin evacuation protocols for all civilian stations in the projected path. I want every non-essential person moved to shielded positions within the next 6 hours. As her crew worked frantically to implement these preparations, Chen couldn't shake the feeling that they were already too late. Whatever was coming had been planned for far longer than any of them realized, and somehow, she knew that when morning came, the Terran Empire would never be the same. The red dot pulsed again on the display, now noticeably closer than it had been just minutes before. Chen watched it approach, feeling like an ancient sailor who had just spotted storm clouds on the horizon, except this storm was moving faster than light itself, and she had no idea how to weather it. Chapter 2. First Contact Captain. Maria Rodriguez felt the familiar weight of command settle on her shoulders as the destroyer Valiant dropped out of hyperspace. The transition from the swirling tunnel of folded space-time to the stark reality of normal space always left her slightly disoriented. But today the sensation was magnified by the knowledge of what they were pursuing. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, announced Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the sensor station. Distance approximately 50,000 kilometers and closing. Rodriguez moved to the center of the bridge, her boots clicking against the metal deck plating. The Valiant was a small ship by Imperial standards, barely 300 meters long, but it packed enough firepower to level a city. Today, she hoped that wouldn't be necessary. "Put it on screen," she ordered. The main viewer flickered to life, showing the star field ahead of them. For a moment, Rodriguez saw nothing but the usual cosmic backdrop of distant suns and nebular dust. Then Kim made an adjustment, and something appeared. A shadow against the stars, visible only because it blocked the light behind it. "Mother of God," whispered Commander Jackson, her first officer. A veteran of the Zentari Wars, he had seen his share of alien technology. But this was something else entirely. The ship, if it could be called a ship, defied easy description. It seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, its surface rippling with patterns that hurt the eyes to follow. Rodriguez estimated its length at nearly 2 kilometers, but its exact dimensions seemed to change depending on the angle of observation. "Sensor analysis?" she asked, though she suspected she wouldn't like the answer. "That's just it, Captain," Kim replied, her voice tight with frustration. "The sensors can detect it, but they can't analyze it. It's like trying to measure something that doesn't exist in our normal 3 dimensions. Rodriguez nodded grimly. Admiral Chen's briefing had prepared her for something unusual, but the reality was far stranger than she had imagined. "Any response to our standard hails?" "Negative. We've transmitted on all frequencies, including the xenological contact protocols. Either they can't hear us, or they're choosing not to respond." The bridge fell silent except for the steady hum of life support systems. Rodriguez studied the alien vessel, noting how it seemed to bend light around itself. No wonder long-range sensors had difficulty tracking it. The thing was like a hole in space itself. "Captain," Kim said suddenly, her voice sharp with alarm, "it's changing course." On the screen, the impossible ship began to turn, its fluid form rippling as it oriented itself toward the Valiant. The movement was utterly silent and eerily graceful, like a whale turning in deep ocean waters. "All stop," Rodriguez ordered. "Maintain distance." But the alien ship continued its approach, covering the distance between them with frightening speed. Rodriguez could feel the tension on the bridge ratchet up several notches as her crew prepared for the unknown. "Distance now, 30,000 kilometers and closing," Kim reported. "Captain, at this rate, they'll be on top of us in less than 5 minutes." Rodriguez made a decision that would haunt her for the rest of her life. "Red alert, all hands to battle stations. Raise shields and charge weapons, but do not lock on unless I give the order." The bridge lights dimmed to tactical red as warning klaxons echoed through the ship. Rodriguez could hear the distant thunder of her crew running to their positions, preparing for a battle they didn't understand against an enemy they couldn't comprehend. 20,000 kilometers, Kim announced. 15. 10. The alien ship filled the screen now, its impossible geometry creating optical illusions that made Rodriguez's head spin. She could see details in its surface, intricate patterns that seemed to move independently of the ship itself, like living circuits flowing through metallic skin. 5,000 kilometers, and still closing. Rodriguez's hand hovered over the weapons console. One word from her and the Valiant would unleash enough firepower to crack a moon, but something held her back. A sense that they were dealing with something so far beyond their understanding that aggression would be not just futile, but catastrophically wrong. At 2,000 kilometers, the alien ship stopped. The silence on the bridge was deafening. Rodriguez could hear her own heartbeat, could feel sweat beating on her forehead despite the ship's climate control. On the screen, the alien vessel hung motionless, its surface patterns now clearly visible as they pulsed with colors that had no names in human language. "Captain," whispered Lieutenant Torres from the communication station, "I'm picking up something. Not radio, but something." "Define something, Lieutenant." Torres adjusted his headset, his face creased with concentration. "It's like music, but not music. Mathematical sequences that almost form melodies, and underneath it all there's something else. Something that sounds almost like what? Like breathing." Rodriguez felt a chill run down her spine. Whatever was aboard that ship, it was alive. More than that, it was trying to communicate. "Can you isolate the signal?" "I'll try." Torres's fingers flew over his console, filtering out background radiation and cosmic interference. Slowly, a sound began to emerge from the bridge speakers, haunting, alien, but unmistakably intelligent. The sound was unlike anything Rodriguez had ever heard. It rose and fell in complex patterns, sometimes resembling whale song, other times sounding like the whisper of solar wind through magnetic fields. But beneath the alien harmonics, she could detect something that made her breath catch. It was counting. The same mathematical progression that appeared in the first contact protocols, prime numbers, the Fibonacci sequence, the fundamental constants of physics. But it was wrong somehow, as if the mathematics themselves followed different rules. "Captain," Kim said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The ship, it's doing something." On the screen, the alien vessel's surface began to change. Sections of its hull became transparent, revealing glimpses of its interior. What Rodriguez saw there made her question everything she thought she knew about life in the universe. The ship wasn't filled with technology in any recognizable sense. Instead, it seemed to be alive, a vast organism whose internal structures pulsed with bioluminescent light. She could see what might have been neural networks stretching through the vessel's length, carrying information at the speed of thought. "My God," Commander Jackson breathed. "It's not a ship at all. It's a creature." As if responding to his words, the alien being pulsed with brighter light. The mathematical song from the speakers grew more complex, more urgent. And then, impossibly, words began to form, not in English or any human language, but in concepts that bypassed language entirely and spoke directly to the mind. "Danger," the voice seemed to say. "Warning, they come for all." Rodriguez staggered as the alien thoughts invaded her consciousness. Around her, she could see her crew experiencing the same disorientation as their minds struggled to process concepts that had no human equivalent. "The Devourer's approach," the voice continued, growing stronger. Your kind cannot comprehend, cannot fight, must warn, must prepare." Images flashed through Rodriguez's mind, vast mechanical constructs that consumed entire star systems, leaving nothing but empty space in their wake. She saw worlds stripped of all life, their very atoms reorganized into incomprehensible patterns. She saw civilizations that had thrived for millions of years snuffed out in moments. "They come in cycles," the alien voice explained. "Every 50,000 of your years. This cycle ends soon. We are the last of our kind, the last to remember, to warn." Warning of what? Rodriguez managed to say aloud, though she wasn't sure if the creature could hear her words or only her thoughts. "The harvest begins. Your empire stands at the crossroads. Choose wisely, or join the silence." The connection suddenly severed, leaving Rodriguez gasping as her own thoughts returned to normal. On the screen, the alien being, for she could no longer think of it as merely a ship, began to move away. "Captain," Kim reported, her voice shaking, "it's accelerating again. Current speed, 28% of light speed and climbing." Rodriguez watched the impossible creature disappear into the cosmic distance, carrying its warning toward the heart of human space. She knew that her report would be dismissed by some as hallucination or equipment malfunction. But she had felt the truth of those alien thoughts, had seen the images of destruction that awaited. "Set course for Prometheus Station," she ordered. "Maximum burn." "And Lieutenant Torres?" "Yes, Captain. Record everything. Every sensor reading, every communication log, every detail. Admiral Chen is going to want to see it all." As the Valiant turned toward home, Rodriguez couldn't shake the images the alien had shared with her. Somewhere out in the dark between galaxies, something was stirring. Something that viewed entire civilizations as nothing more than crops to be harvested when the time was right. And according to the creature they had just encountered, that time was almost here. The bridge crew worked in tense silence as they raced, back to warn their superiors. None of them spoke of what they had experienced, but Rodriguez could see the same haunted expression in every face. They had made first contact with an alien intelligence, but instead of answers, they had received only questions. Who were the devourers? How long did humanity have? And most terrifying of all, if a being capable of traveling at 30% of light speed was running in fear, what hope did humanity have of survival? Rodriguez stared at the stars ahead, knowing that each one might harbor worlds that had already faced the choice the alien had spoken of. Choose wisely or join the silence. The question was, what choice was humanity going to make? Urysyakura Chapter 3. The gathering storm Admiral Chen stood in the secure briefing room deep within Prometheus Station, surrounded by holographic displays showing tactical data from across the sector. The debriefing from Captain Rodriguez had left her, with more questions than answers and precious little time to find solutions. Play it again, she ordered. The central hologram shimmered, recreating the encounter between the Valiant and the alien entity. Chen watched the impossible ship, creature, perform maneuvers that violated every law of physics she understood. The mathematical song filled the room again, its alien harmonies raising goosebumps along her arms. Dr. Elena Vasquez leaned forward in her chair, her eyes fixed on the bioluminescent patterns visible within the alien being's hull. The neural structures are unlike anything in our xenobiology databases. The information processing capacity must be astronomical, easily equivalent to our most advanced quantum computers. That's not what concerns me, Chen replied grimly. What concerns me is its warning. Commander Webb manipulated the holographic controls, highlighting the trajectory data. Based on the creature's heading and acceleration curve, it's now moving. At 34% of light speed, at that rate it'll reach the inner core worlds in less than 14 hours. And presumably deliver the same warning to every Imperial installation along the way, added Chief Engineer Tanaka. She looked exhausted. She'd been working non-stop since the first contact, trying to understand the alien technology they'd witnessed. Admiral, I've run every analysis I can think of. That thing shouldn't be able to exist, let alone move the way it does. Chen studied the tactical display, her mind racing through possibilities. In the 6 hours since Rodriguez's encounter, 3 more alien entities had been detected by long-range sensors, all following similar trajectories toward populated systems, all moving at impossible speeds. They're spreading out, she realized, covering as much territory as possible, warning as many people as they can. But warning them of what exactly? Dr. Vasquez asked. These devourers. We have no data on them beyond the psychic impressions received by Captain Rodriguez's crew. Which brings us to our primary problem, Chen said. She activated another hologram showing a star chart of the local galactic arm. If this is some kind of cyclical threat that appears every 50,000 years, why haven't we found any evidence of it? Archaeological surveys of dozens of worlds show no signs of massive extinction events on that time frame. Webb frowned. Unless the evidence was erased. If these devourers consume entire star systems, there would be nothing left to find, Chen finished. The implications were staggering. If the alien warning was accurate, humanity was facing a threat that had been systematically destroying civilizations for millions of years. A chime sounded, and Lieutenant Kim's voice came over the comm system. Admiral, we're receiving a priority transmission from Fleet Command. Classification level Alpha. Chen's blood ran cold. Alpha classification was reserved for existential threats to the Empire itself. Put it through to this room. The holographic display shifted, showing the weathered face of Fleet Admiral Harrison Carter, the highest-ranking military officer in the Terran Empire. His expression was grim, and Chen could see exhaustion in his eyes. Admiral Chen, he began without preamble. I'm sure you've heard about the alien contacts in your sector. We've now confirmed similar encounters in 7 other regions. The situation is unprecedented. Chen nodded. What are your orders, sir? We're implementing Defense Protocol Omega, effective immediately. All fleet assets are being recalled to defensive positions around core worlds. I need Prometheus Station to coordinate the evacuation of non-essential personnel from the outer colonies. Defense Protocol Omega. Chen had helped write those procedures, but she had never imagined they would actually be used. It was the Empire's contingency plan for facing an existential threat, the complete militarization of human space. "Sir," she said carefully, "has there been any official determination regarding the credibility of these warnings?" Carter's expression darkened. 3 hours ago, one of these alien entities appeared directly above Earth's moon. It transmitted the same warning to our deepest space monitoring stations before disappearing. The President has declared a state of galactic emergency. The room fell silent. Earth itself had been visited by the aliens. There could be no doubt now about the seriousness of the situation. "Admiral," Carter continued, "I need your tactical assessment. If these devourers are real, and if they possess technology that makes our alien visitors look primitive by comparison, what are our chances?" Chen considered the question carefully. The aliens they'd encountered could travel at significant fractions of light speed, manipulate matter in ways that defied physics, and communicate through direct mental contact. If they were running in fear from something else. Realistically, based on conventional military analysis, our chances are essentially zero. Whatever is coming operates on a completely different technological level. Then we need unconventional solutions, Carter said. "I'm authorizing the activation of Project Looking Glass." Chen felt her heart skip a beat. Project Looking Glass was the Empire's most classified research program, an attempt to reverse engineer alien technologies recovered from various conflicts over the past century. The project was so secret that only a handful of people knew it existed. "Sir, Looking Glass is still in the experimental phase. The risks are outweighed by the alternative," Carter interrupted. "Dr. Morrison's team believes they've made a breakthrough with the Zentari quantum field generators. If we can adapt their technology to our ships, we might be able to fight back," Chen realized, "or at least put up enough of a resistance to buy time." "Exactly. I'm sending you the classified specifications. You'll have 12 hours to determine if any of the Looking Glass technologies can be implemented on short notice." The transmission ended, leaving Chen staring at the now empty hologram. Around her, the senior staff waited for orders, their faces reflecting a mixture of determination and barely controlled fear. "Chief Tanaka," Chen said finally, "I'm uploading classified technical specifications to your personal workstation, eyes-only maximum security protocols. I need to know if any of this technology can be adapted to our existing fleet assets." Tanaka nodded grimly. "How long do I have?" "Less than 12 hours, probably much less." As Tanaka hurried from the room, Chen turned to Dr. Vasquez. "Doctor, I need everything we know about cyclical extinction events. Check the archaeological databases, xenological surveys, even ancient mythology from human cultures. If this has happened before, there might be some record of it." "What kind of records could survive 50,000 years?" Vasquez asked. "The kind that civilizations would want to preserve for future generations. Warning messages, instructions, anything that might help us understand what we're facing." Dr. Vasquez left to begin her research, leaving Chen alone with Commander Webb. Her tactical officer looked haggard, and she realized he probably hadn't slept since the first alien contact. "Commander, when was the last time you rested?" Webb managed a tired smile. "I'll sleep when this is over, Admiral. Right now, I'm more concerned about those acceleration curves. The alien entities are still speeding up. At their current rate, they'll be moving at nearly 50% of light speed within the next few hours, trying to deliver their warnings. Before time runs out," Chen mused. "But time for what? When exactly do these devourers arrive?" Before Webb could answer, the comm system crackled to life again. "Admiral, priority message from the outer sensor arrays. We're detecting massive gravitational anomalies at the edge of the system." Chen felt ice form in her stomach. "Specify. Massive. Gravitational distortions equivalent to objects with the mass of gas giants, but no corresponding visual contacts. And Admiral, they're moving." Chen and Webb exchanged glances. They both understood the implications. Something was coming, something so massive that it bent space-time around itself, yet remained invisible to conventional sensors. "How long? Until the anomalies reach the inner system?" Chen asked. Based on current trajectory and speed, approximately 16 hours. 16 hours. Chen closed her eyes, running calculations in her head. The alien warnings had been accurate after all. The devourers were coming, and humanity had less than a day to prepare for a threat that had been consuming civilizations since before humans had discovered fire. Commander Webb, implement Defense Protocol Omega immediately. I want every available ship in the sector formed into a defensive perimeter around the core worlds. And send a message to all colony administrators. Begin immediate evacuation procedures for all non-essential personnel. Yes, ma'am. As Webb hurried to carry out her orders, Chen remained in the briefing room staring at the tactical displays. Somewhere out there in the darkness, something was approaching that made the alien entities look like frightened children. Something that had been harvesting civilizations for millions of years, leaving nothing behind but empty space. But humanity wasn't going down without a fight. They had faced impossible odds before, against the Zentari, against rogue AI swarms, against the hostile environments of distant worlds. Each time, human ingenuity and determination had found a way to survive. The question was whether ingenuity would be enough against an enemy that had been perfecting the art of destruction for eons. Chen supposed they were about to find out. She activated her personal comm unit and began recording a message for her family on Earth. If the next 16 hours went badly, it might be the last chance she had to tell them she loved them. Outside, the station's viewports, the stars continued their eternal dance, unaware that one of the galaxy's youngest civilizations was about to face its greatest test. The gathering storm was almost upon them, and Admiral Sarah Chen could only hope that when it passed, there would still be something left of humanity to remember. Chapter 4. The dark between Stars Chief Engineer Yuki Tanaka hadn't slept in 18 hours, and the classified technical specifications Admiral Chen had provided were making her question everything she thought she knew about physics. The looking glass files spread across her workstation showed technologies that seemed more like magic than science. Quantum field generators that could fold space, energy weapons that fired exotic matter, and most impossibly of all, ships that could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. This is insane, she muttered, cross-referencing Zentari quantum field theory with human engineering principles. Half of these designs should collapse into black holes the moment you activate them. Her assistant, Lieutenant Rodriguez, no relation to the destroyer captain, looked up from his own analysis. The power requirements alone would drain our entire reactor output in seconds. How did the Zentari make this work? Tanaka rubbed her tired eyes and pulled up another schematic. The Zentari had been the Empire's most dangerous enemies until 3 years ago, when their civilization had suddenly vanished without explanation. Now she wondered if they had received their own warning about the Devourers. They didn't think like us, she said. Their technology was based on cooperative quantum entanglement rather than brute force energy conversion. Instead of powering these systems directly, they created sympathetic resonances between paired particles across vast distances, which explains why their ships could coordinate attacks across entire star systems, Rodriguez realized. But could we adapt that to our existing fleet? Tanaka studied the specifications for what the files called a quantum anchor, a device that could theoretically allow a ship to exist partially outside normal spacetime. According to the documentation, vessels equipped with quantum anchors could avoid detection by conventional sensors and potentially even survive the destruction of local space. Maybe, she said slowly, but not in the time we have. These modifications would require completely rebuilding our ships from the hull up. A chime from her workstation interrupted her thoughts. Dr. Vasquez's face appeared on the communication screen, her expression a mixture of excitement and terror. Chief Tanaka, I need you to see something. I've been analyzing ancient human mythologies as Admiral Chen requested, and I've found correlations. Tanaka sighed. She didn't have time for archaeological speculation, but the Admiral's orders had been clear. What kind of correlations? Stories from dozens of ancient cultures describing the same event, a time when the stars went out. The Aboriginal Australians called it the Great Darkness. Norse mythology describes Ragnarok as ending with the wolf Fenrir swallowing the sun. Hindu texts speak of the Kalpa cycles, when the universe itself is destroyed and reborn. Mythology isn't science, Doctor. But what if it's history, Vasquez countered. What if these stories are cultural memories of previous devourer cycles? The timelines match. Many of these myths place the last great darkness at approximately 50,000 years ago. Tanaka paused her work, intrigued despite herself. You're suggesting that humans survived a previous encounter with these devourers? Not just survived, remembered, and passed down warnings through oral tradition and myth. But here's the interesting part. Almost every culture that describes the Great Darkness also describes how it ended. How? Light returning from an unexpected source. The Hopi speak of the blue star Kachina, bringing salvation from the sky. Celtic mythology describes the return of the Tuatha De Danann, beings of light who drove back the darkness. Always the same pattern. Salvation comes from those who transcend normal physical laws. Tanaka felt a chill of understanding. The aliens, the ones warning us now, they're not just messengers. They're survivors of previous cycles. Exactly. And if the myths are accurate, they don't just warn civilizations about the devourers. They help them fight back. Before Tanaka could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The red alert klaxons were joined by a new sound, a deep, thrumming tone that seemed to vibrate through the station's superstructure itself. All hands to battle stations, Admiral Chen's voice announced over the comm system. This is not a drill. Unknown contacts detected on approach vector. Estimated time to engagement, 47 minutes. Tanaka's blood turned to ice. The devourers were ahead of schedule. She ran from her workshop to the main engineering deck where her staff was already implementing emergency protocols. The station's massive quantum reactors were spinning up to full power, and weapon systems that had never been fired in anger were coming online for the first time. Status report, she called out. Reactors at 98% and climbing, reported Ensign Park. All defensive systems online, but Chief, you need to see this. Park gestured to the engineering sensor display, which showed the approaching gravitational anomalies in detail. What Tanaka saw there made her legs weak. The contacts weren't ships in any conventional sense. They were structures the size of small moons, moving through space at a significant percentage of light speed. But more disturbing was their effect. On local spacetime, reality itself seemed to bend and twist around them, creating distortions that registered on every sensor the station possessed. How many? She asked. Sensor contacts suggest at least 12 primary objects with smaller contacts surrounding each one. Estimated total mass? Park swallowed hard. Equivalent to our entire solar system. 12 objects with the combined mass of a solar system, approaching at relativistic speeds. Tanaka realized that conventional weapons would be useless against such entities. The kinetic energy alone would be sufficient to crack planets. She opened a communication channel to the bridge. Admiral, this is Chief Tanaka. I need to speak with you immediately. Go ahead, Chief. Ma'am, I've been analyzing the looking glass specifications. There's one technology that might be applicable to our current situation, the quantum anchor system. If we could modify our shields to operate on quantum entanglement principles, explain. Tanaka took a deep breath. Instead of deflecting incoming energy, we could theoretically shift the station partially out of phase with normal spacetime, make us harder to detect and target. Risks? Complete molecular dissolution if the field generators fail. But Admiral, given what's coming toward us, I think it's a risk worth taking. There was a long pause before Chen responded. How long do you need? 20 minutes for a basic implementation. But I'll need to shut down main power to reroute the quantum field generators. Do it. And Chief? Make it work. Tanaka closed the channel and turned to her team. You heard the Admiral. Park, I need you to shut down everything except life support and emergency systems. Rodriguez, help me reconfigure the main deflector array. We're going to attempt something that's never been tried before. As her team scrambled to implement the modifications, Tanaka found herself thinking about Dr. Vasquez's research. If ancient human myths contained memories of previous devourer cycles, what had allowed humanity to survive when so many other civilizations had been consumed? She pulled up the quantum anchor specifications again, studying the theoretical framework that would allow a ship to exist in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. The mathematics were elegant, but terrifying. One miscalculation could scatter their atoms across several universes. "Chief," Rodriguez called out, "I'm reading massive energy spikes from the approaching contacts. They're doing something to the space around them." Tanaka switched to external sensors and immediately wished she hadn't. The lead devourer construct was surrounded by a growing sphere of absolute nothingness, not darkness, but the complete absence of space itself. Stars were simply ceasing to exist as the sphere expanded. "Dear God," she whispered, "they're not just destroying matter. They're unmaking reality itself." The station shuddered as gravitational waves from the approaching devourers washed over them. Tanaka could feel the artificial gravity fluctuating, and several of her engineers had to grab support rails to keep from falling. "Field generators online in 30 seconds, Park reported, his voice tight with concentration. Tanaka watched the readings on her display, making minute adjustments to the quantum field harmonics. The Zentari technology was incredibly complex, requiring precise coordination between dozens of entangled particle pairs. One frequency mismatch could destabilize the entire system. 20 seconds to field activation, she announced. All non-essential personnel, prepare for possible dimensional displacement effects. Through the engineering deck's viewport, she could see the approaching devourers more clearly now. They weren't mechanical constructs as she had expected, but something far more alien. Geometric patterns that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions, their edges cutting through reality like cosmic scalpels. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2. Tanaka engaged the quantum anchor system. Reality hiccuped. For a moment that lasted eternity, Tanaka existed in 17 different dimensions simultaneously. She could see the station from angles that didn't exist, could perceive time as a physical dimension that she could almost reach out and touch. The sensation was overwhelming, beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Then the field stabilized and normal perception returned. "Status report," she called out, her voice slightly hoarse from the dimensional displacement. "Quantum field is stable," Park reported. "We're reading approximately 60% phase variance from baseline reality. External sensors show..." He paused, checking his readings. "Chief, we're invisible. The devourers are passing right through our position without detecting us." Tanaka allowed herself a moment of relief, then opened a channel to the bridge. "Admiral, quantum anchor is operational. We're effectively invisible to the devourers. Sensors." "Outstanding work, Chief. Can you extend the field to cover our defensive fleet?" Tanaka checked the power requirements and felt her heart sink. "Negative, Admiral. The field barely covers the station. Extending it to ship-sized objects would require exponentially more power than we can generate." "Understood. Maintain current configuration and monitor for any field fluctuations." As Tanaka coordinated with her team to stabilize the quantum field, she couldn't help but watch the tactical displays showing the Devourer fleet's approach to the inner system. The Imperial Defensive Fleet, nearly 200 ships representing the finest of human military technology, was taking position to intercept. It was going to be a massacre. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of Prometheus Station, watching her fleet prepare for a battle they couldn't win. The quantum anchor system had rendered the station invisible to the Devourers, but her ships had no such protection. They would have to face the cosmic horrors with nothing but conventional weapons and human courage. "Fleet status?" she asked. "Commander Webb, all ships report ready for engagement. Admiral, many of the captains are requesting permission to ram the Devourer constructs if their weapons prove ineffective." Chen closed her eyes. Those captains understood the mathematics as well as she did. Against enemies that could unmake reality itself, suicide attacks might be the only option available. "Permission granted," she said quietly. "All ships are authorized to use ramming attacks at their discretion." The lead Devourer construct entered the outer system, its reality-distorting field, consuming the orbital mining platforms around the gas giant Hercules. The station simply ceased to exist, their atoms scattered across dimensions that had no names. Range to target? Chen asked. 50 million kilometers in closing. First contact in approximately 8 minutes. Chen activated the fleet communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. You know what we're facing, you know the odds, but remember, we're not just fighting for the Empire today. We're fighting for the right of humanity to exist in this universe, make every shot count, make every life matter. And if we fall today, make sure our sacrifice gives others the chance to find a better way. The responses came back immediately, acknowledgments, from captains who understood they were about to die, but were determined to make their deaths meaningful. Admiral, Webb said softly. Incoming transmission from the alien entities. The ones who warned us. Chen's eyebrows rose. Put it through. The bridge filled with the same mathematical music they had heard before, but now it carried undertones of urgency and hope. Do not despair. The alien voice spoke directly into their minds. The cycle can be broken. Your people have what is needed. What do we have? Chen asked aloud. Images flashed through her consciousness. Not of advanced technology or powerful weapons, but of something more fundamental. She saw human colonists working together to survive on hostile worlds. She saw scientists from different cultures collaborating to solve impossible problems. She saw acts of sacrifice and heroism that transcended species boundaries. Unity, the alien voice explained. The Devourers consume civilizations that turn inward, that seek only their own survival. But your species reaches outward, includes others, grows stronger through diversity. Chen suddenly understood. The fleet. We are not fighting alone. On the tactical display, new contacts appeared. Dozens of the alien entities, their bioluminescent hulls pulsing with coordinated light. They moved to intercept the Devourer constructs, their impossible speeds allowing them to match the cosmic horror's approach. We are the remnants, the voice continued. Survivors of 1,000 dead civilizations. We have waited 50,000 years for a species that could break the cycle. Your people are that species. What do you need us to do? Chen asked. The answer came not in words, but in technical specifications that flooded her consciousness. The aliens weren't asking humanity to fight the Devourers directly. They were asking them to do something far more dangerous. They wanted humanity to link their quantum fields with the remnant ships, creating a combined consciousness that could exist across multiple dimensions simultaneously. It was essentially technological telepathy on a galactic scale. Admiral, Dr. Vasquez's voice came over the comm system. I'm detecting massive changes in the Devourer constructs. They're adapting to the remnant attack patterns. Chen switched to external sensors and saw what Vasquez meant. The Devourers were evolving in real time, their reality-distorting fields shifting to counter the remnant's dimensional attacks. In minutes, they would be immune to everything the survivors could throw at them, unless humanity joined the battle in a way no species had ever attempted before. Chief Tanaka, Chen called out, can you modify the quantum anchor to link with the remnant ships? It's theoretically possible, came the reply. But Admiral, linking our consciousness with alien minds, we don't know what that will do to us. Chen looked around the bridge at her crew, men and women who had devoted their lives to protecting humanity among the stars. They were terrified, but she could see the determination in their eyes. They understood what was at stake. Do it, she ordered. Link us with the remnants. As Chief Tanaka began the modifications, Chen opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships prepare for quantum field linkage with alien allies. This is uncharted territory, people. We don't know what's going to happen, but whatever comes next, we face it together. The first Devourer construct reached the inner system, its reality-distorting field beginning to consume the outer planets. Chen watched entire worlds disappear into nothingness, taking with them billions of years of geological history. "Field linkage ready," Tanaka reported. "Admiral, once I activate this, there's no going back. We'll be permanently connected to the remnant network." Chen thought about the ancient myths Dr. Vasquez had discovered. Stories of light returning to drive back the darkness. Perhaps those weren't just metaphors after all. "Activate the link," she ordered. Reality exploded. Chen suddenly existed in 1,000 different places simultaneously. She was Admiral Sarah Chen standing on the bridge of Prometheus Station, but she was also Navigator Veltar of the crystalline remnant ship Harmony and Captain Jeknol of the biomechanical vessel Transcendence, and hundreds of other beings whose species had been consumed by the Devourers eons ago. Through the Gestalt consciousness, she understood the true nature of the Devourers. They weren't malevolent in any human sense. They were a natural force like entropy or gravity. They consumed civilizations that had reached a certain level of technological development, recycling their matter and energy for purposes beyond comprehension. But they had never encountered a species that could link its consciousness with the survivors of their previous harvests. The combined knowledge and experience of 1,000 dead civilizations, channeled through humanity's natural ability to form cooperative bonds, created something the Devourers had never faced before, a truly unified resistance. Now, the Gestalt consciousness spoke with Chen's voice. "We fight as one." The human fleet opened fire, but their weapons had been transformed by the quantum linkage. Instead of simple energy beams, they fired crystallized mathematics, equations that could rewrite the laws of physics in localized areas. The remnant ships added their own dimensional attacks, while the Gestalt consciousness guided every shot with perfect precision. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Devourers were forced to retreat. But Chen knew this was only the beginning. The Devourers would adapt, evolve, return with new strategies. The real war was just starting, and humanity, linked now with the survivors of 1,000 worlds, would be ready for them. Epilogue. The New Alliance. 3 months after the Battle of Prometheus, Admiral Chen stood in the command center of New Harmony Station, the first joint human remnant facility ever constructed. The station existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously, its architecture a blend of human engineering and alien mathematics that would have been impossible without the quantum consciousness link. Around her, beings from a dozen different species worked side by side, their minds connected through the quantum network that had saved them all. The integration hadn't been without challenges. Several crew members had suffered psychological breakdowns when first exposed to truly alien thought patterns. But humanity had adapted, as it always did. "Status report on the deep space sensors?" she asked Commander Webb, who now served as liaison between human and remnant command structures. "The new detection grid is operational across 3 galactic arms," he reported. "Early warning time for any future Devourer incursions has been extended to 6 months. Chen nodded, studying the tactical displays that now showed information in ways human minds couldn't have processed before the linkage. The Devourers hadn't been destroyed. That was impossible. But they had been forced to recognize that the galaxy now contained a force capable of resisting them. "Any word from the deep exploration teams?" she asked. "Contact was established with the Andromeda Alliance yesterday," Webb replied. "They're requesting technical assistance with their own Devourer preparations. It seems our victory has inspired resistance movements throughout the local galactic cluster." Chen smiled. The quantum consciousness link had revealed something remarkable. Humanity wasn't alone in its ability to form cooperative bonds with other species. Throughout the universe, there were civilizations that had developed similar capacities for unity and mutual aid. The Devourers had consumed them one by one over the eons, but they had never faced a coordinated resistance on this scale. "Dr. Vasquez, how are the archaeological teams progressing?" The xenobiologist, her consciousness now, enhanced by the collective memories of the remnants, looked up from her analysis station. We've located the ruins of 17 civilizations that successfully resisted previous devourer cycles. Each one left behind technological caches that could prove invaluable for our ongoing defense preparations. And the human colonies? Full. Integration with the remnant network is proceeding ahead of schedule. The children are adapting particularly well. Some of them are developing cognitive abilities that exist entirely within the quantum realm. Chen felt a touch of sadness at that news. The human species was evolving, becoming something new and unprecedented. In saving themselves from the devourers, they had transformed into beings that their ancestors wouldn't recognize. But perhaps that was the price of survival in a universe where ancient cosmic forces treated entire civilizations as resources to be harvested. Chief Tanaka materialized beside her. The quantum link allowed for instantaneous travel between any connected locations, carrying a datapad with the latest engineering reports. The new ship designs are ready for testing, she said. Vessels that can exist in up to 12 dimensions simultaneously, powered by cooperative quantum entanglement fields. They're not just ships, Admiral. They're extensions of the Gestalt consciousness itself. Chen accepted the datapad, reviewing specifications that would have been incomprehensible just 3 months earlier. The new ships were alive in ways that human technology had never achieved. Not mechanical constructs, but true partnerships between human creativity and remnant wisdom. Time frame for fleet construction? First squadron operational in 6 weeks. Full fleet deployment within 18 months. Chen nodded, then turned to address the question that had been haunting her since the battle. Any progress on understanding the Devourer's ultimate purpose? The mood in the command center grew somber. Through the quantum link, they had glimpsed fragments of the Devourer's true nature. Cosmic gardeners tending a universe-sized ecosystem, harvesting civilizations that had grown too advanced for their inscrutable purposes. The remnant archives suggest that the Devourers are themselves servants of something even more ancient, Dr. Vasquez reported. Entities that exist outside our universe entirely, using the Devourers to maintain some kind of cosmic balance, which means our victory may have attracted their attention, Chen realized. Possibly. But Admiral, the quantum consciousness network is growing exponentially. Every day new species are joining the alliance. If we can expand fast enough, reach enough civilizations before the next cycle begins, we might be able to break the pattern entirely, Chen finished. She looked out through the station's multidimensional viewports at the impossible vista of folded spacetime that surrounded them. Humanity had come so far from those first tentative steps into space. They had faced extinction and emerged not just stronger, but fundamentally transformed. The question now was whether that transformation would be enough to face whatever lay beyond the Devourers, the ancient forces that had been shaping the universe since before the first stars were born. But Chen felt confident in humanity's chances. They had proven that cooperation and unity could overcome even cosmic-scale threats. And with the wisdom of 1,000 extinct civilizations to guide them, there was no limit to what they might achieve. The great game was just beginning, and for the first time in 50,000 years, the players had changed. In the depths of space, new signals began propagating across the galactic network, calls for unity, offers of alliance, promises of mutual aid. The age of isolated civilizations was ending, and something unprecedented was taking its place. The universe was about to discover what happened when humanity stopped fighting for survival and started fighting for everyone. The end.